It's that time again, and if you're watching this video, then you most likely follow Payday 2 in one form or another, so you know what I'm about to talk about. Goat Simulator DLC for Payday 2. Where do I even begin? The Goat Sim Heist is a 2-day heist and is the first DLC heist for the contract of Vlad. Vlad, again. At this stage it's just becoming comical how my thoughts about contractors seems to be coming true, having mentioned it in my last 2 videos. It's pretty hard to express my feelings on this heist, mainly because I am conflicted about a range of things that have occurred, so I might as well start with the positives because I have a lot of negatives that I need to get off my chest. Day 1 of the heist is a nice map. It's actually huge in comparison to most of the other maps, but it's got a fair amount of cover, so you're not constantly exposed in, say, like Bomb Forest, but can be exposed if you're not aware of your surroundings. The amount of goats you need to rescue changes on the difficulty, so on Death Wish you need 15, and subtract 2 for every difficulty you go down. Regardless, there are always 3 objectives you need to do to get 3 goats. Hack an electrical box to disable a fan or electrified ladder, saw a lamppost or drill a store security barrier, and make your way through a burning building, which is a nice change from regular objectives. Having to turn on sprinklers to extinguish fires and removing the building debris so you can advance through to get the goat is a lot of fun. The remainder of the goats are in easily accessible locations, and once you sort of memorize them, it doesn't become a huge hassle. Death Wish makes this easier since most of the spots have to be filled by the goats. The goats themselves I found to be quite funny. I heard that they were just bag reskins, but that is not entirely true, since the goats can be found in laying down or standing up positions, and if you approach a standing up goat from the front or back, you can get head butted or kicked and actually take damage. And it's just... people are so freaking stupid. After you secure all the goats in this huge semi, you park the Longfellow in it to escape. I forgot to mention that there's a Longfellow to help transport the goats around 4 at a time if you want. Grabbing your crowbar, zip ties and lube, you move on to day 2, which is set in a barn where Boris doesn't extract the coat from the goats and instead hides in a dumpster. The Hondas show up and ambush us, and we have to defend until Almir, aka Drunk Pilot from White Xmas, comes to pick up the goats, Go Bank style. There are 3 locations for the cage drop off and pick up: the road, the silo, and the bridge. If the parts drop at one location, the setup will be at one of the other 2 locations. It's relatively quick for everything to arrive, and if you're with people who know what they're doing, defending isn't too bad, except for the bridge, because fuck that. After the goats are re-secured, you escape in the Longfellow that you parked in the semi. You drive down a winding country road, then have your car break down in between 2 SWAT turrets, meters away. You get back in, lose a few team members to custody, and then you get to this bridge. I'll admit that I thought this was a pretty neat idea. I thought we were almost done once we got in the Longfellow, but this one achievement was in the back of my mind. Escape within 4 minutes. Something's not right there. But more on the achievements later. After you drill the door and turn the bridge back around, you can finally drive into a new semi and finish the heist. The other things within the heist that I liked were snipers and helicopters. I thought that this was a wonderful idea, giving some justification to some obscure sniper locations, and I like how they actually fly in and out of the map, giving you time to identify that a sniper is about to spawn, and how you can then deal with them. Whilst the achievements are still fresh, I'll talk about them. There are 5 in total. Coffee stain for completing the heist on Death Wish. Goat in 60 seconds. Securing 6 goats in the semi within 1 minute of its arrival. Has to be done on at least hard, since normal only spawns 5 goats. I'd recommend having at least 3 people for it, having 4 goats in the Longfellow and 2 on the players' backs, so you can run to the escape ASAP. Hazard Country. The one mentioned earlier about escaping within 4 minutes from when the car is available, this requires a SAW or C4 and can be done on any difficulty. It's rather easy when you're going for it. Bah, bang, ah. Throw a goat in the air, kill a cop, and catch it before it hits the ground. This can be pretty easy as well. You just need to dominate a cop and do it. And finally, Farmer Miserable. Securing each goat in separate cages on overkill or above. Doing it on overkill, you only have to secure 13 goats instead of 15, so it's easier. This is similar to the Dr. Miserable achievement for sending the correct fusion engine last on Big Oil, but this is a bit quicker. Strangely enough, there isn't a Death Wish achievement for completing the pro version of the heist. Simon, God bless his soul, has made us 2 new chaotic tracks for the heist. Pounce and Screech. I recently contributed to his Patreon because he honestly deserves it for the huge contribution he has put towards Payday, and I honestly can't wait to see what he does now as a freelancer. Of course, we have 4 masks, materials and patterns: Goat Goat, Master Goat, Scout Goat, and Slick Goat, all derpy animals with their tongues hanging out. Personally, it's not my thing. For materials, we get Goat Eye, Flamingo Eye, Hay, and Tongue. Hay and Tongue look fucking stupid. I don't know why anyone would use them. For patterns, we have Giraffe, Illuma Goatee, Goat Face, and Fur. Fur being the only pattern I really like, and in fact, it actually works well with my anomaly mask. So, 1 out of 12 ain't bad, but it's still pretty fucking bad. On to weapons. The Shears, a small, faster melee weapon, does small amounts of damage. The Pitchfork, a slow, larger weapon, does a higher amount of damage. The Shepherd's Cane, it's the middle ground between the two, being moderately sized and average to swing with average damage. And finally, the Scout Knife, a carbon copy of the Shears. It is literally the same, however the hidden stats might be slightly different, not that it really matters. Overall, the melees suck. While they're fun to swing, they just don't do anything interesting. It's nothing new. They are already outclassed by a range of others. The Taser is still, in my opinion, the best melee in the game due to its ability to stop charging and kicking cloakers. The GSPS 12G shotgun is a secondary that is similar to the Locomotive. The stats are very close, however the Loco, once modded, has 3 extra rounds and is a faster fire rate in general. The GSPS has more concealment, however, and can reach lower accuracy for a greater spread of pellets. However, it might be a benefit to Fuji players more than the Loco could do for Fuji players. Now that I've said all the nice things about this update, I'm gonna talk about something that's been bugging me for a while. Gameplay assurance. Gameplay assurance is, as Overkill Dan puts it, trying out new features, making sure we launch updates that are fun and working as intended. What I want to know is, how does Overkill go about testing the game? Because going back to the GSPS shotgun, the 2 weapon-specific mods for the gun don't even drop. Do they test the guns vanilla without any mods? Do they go and give themselves every mod and just test it that way? It took me 10 minutes to test whether or not it dropped. Since I had already maxed all the previous weapon mods, so all new content mods will be the only thing that dropped for me. Rush Jewelry Store a few times to get to the card drop screen. Takes less than 60 seconds per run. Or use the offshore casino and save yourself those 9 minutes. Ugh. So then how do they test heists? How do they test any new element in a given heist? Let's take a look at those goats. Wait, no, let's take a look at those bags? Why does it say grab bag instead of grab goat? Most other loot items in the game actually tell you what you're picking up. These bags can also get stuck underground occasionally. Onto the Longfellow. Oh, but Kenny, the Longfellow already exists in Meltdown, and we know that there's weird hair physics while driving. Yeah, I know that already exists. So how come they remove the respawn vehicle feature when you get it stuck? Seriously, if you get the Longfellow stuck, you cannot respawn it. You have to restart the heist since you have to escape with it in day 1. I can understand how you can miss testing this if you know how to drive the thing. But the feature already exists in the Meltdown Longfellow. It baffles me. During the heist, you have 3 objectives to get 3 different goats. One of them is to get a goat on scaffolding or hanging from a fan in a store. To do this, you need to hack the correct power box to stop the fan or de-electrify the ladder to get up to the scaffolding. So yeah, the ladder is electrified. You mightn't have realized since the lamp post isn't actually touching the ladder. Regardless, if you touch the ladder, you get shocked, similar to the Firestarter Day 3 vault. However, after touching it and running around, if you get tased by a taser and you kill the said taser, you will remain tased for the duration as the ladder tase. I'm assuming they already know about the ladder being electrified, so they don't touch it, and thus they couldn't miss that bug. But I don't know. We don't know. Moving on to day 2, most people already know this, but it is constantly crashing. I've crashed at least 10 times on day 2. Granted, I do run lobby player info and some small other mods, so I can't complain about me crashing. However, I know people running no mods and they crash. So how did this even make it past gameplay assurance? My theory is they don't actually play the heists. That is the most obvious explanation for these bugs making it through to release. Maybe they just load up the heist and go, alrighty, it loaded, so it works, now tick that off the checklist.
Meanwhile, at Overkill Quality Assurance Office...
Maybe they only test things under a certain way, under strict rules of what they're doing for that test. Which would explain the bug when First World Bank first came out. When you opened the vault in stealth and it went loud, you still had to thermite into it, since it wouldn't trigger the escape. Maybe they pay a team outside of Overkill to test the content for them, people that know nothing about the game. Perhaps that's why they miss shit like this constantly. There are dozens of veteran players out there that would love to test new content for Payday, and for free. I mean, there's significantly a lot less now due to the Black Plague update. Speaking of which, I cannot believe Overkill had the goal to add this big, fat, hot sale 75% off in the menu. Especially when I already own all the content for the game. This is just a clear sign that microtransactions that they implemented to help with the over 7 projects that they've got going on, and as of today they just announced a new one called Crossfire. They already mentioned that the reduce in price from the Meltdown update was supposed to help, and it didn't. So microtransactions might have been the savior that they needed to cover costs. But clearly, if you need to put this in the fucking menu, and that you have another sale 2 weeks after your previous one, indicates it is not working. I think the only reason Bodhi was released for free was to create the impression, oh hey guys, look, microtransactions are doing great. No need to be angry about something that's giving you free content now, right? Do you know what else is a good way to save costs? Reducing the amount of projects you're trying to fund. Or perhaps if you had spent 2.5 more months polishing the Goat Sim heist and releasing it on April 1st, you would have gotten a lot more sales out of it. Going back to the Goat Sim heist, I want to talk about difficulty now. Difficulty has been a strange issue for a long while now. Due to power creep and shitty PC specs, making cops react slower. It's not a difficulty increase to have a ridiculous amount of weak cops spawning. It is fucking bullshit to have over 30 weak cops rain hellfire at you from the very start. To give you an idea of damage, on Death Wish, any weak cop from any distance will always deal at least 60 damage. And there is a huge pile of them at the start surrounded by civs. So you can't just kill them quickly or you're likely to kill civs. But there's so many of them anyway that you can't kill them all before they get a shot off on you. It's the same thing with the gangsters on day 2. They deal 60 damage on any distance on Death Wish. It is not a difficulty increase to just spawn fuck tons of them. The difference in enemy damage on Death Wish and Overkill is that Overkill enemies have fall off damage that makes them super weak from super far away. For instance, a Chimano cop at 40 meters deals 60 damage on Death Wish, but on Overkill he doesn't deal any damage. So the question is, do they balance heists on Death Wish? I remember Almir saying something about testing heists with vanilla weapons on Death Wish. I might be wrong about that, but I think they do not test heists on Death Wish at all. So that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about with gameplay assurance. I'd love to see some discussion about it on Reddit, as I think it is a serious issue that needs to be addressed. I'd love to see someone from Overkill comment on the process that they go through with new content and with new heists. I'm looking forward to the future we have with Safe House customization that was promised for early 2016, as well as the Australian heister Sydney. As an Aussie myself, I am quite looking forward to how that turns out, because that'll either be good or fucking horrible. If there is not at least one cunt line in her dialogue, then she is not a fucking true blue Aussie. Like, an Inspire or Dozer call out line would be fine. Like, get up you fucking cunt, or some shit like that, I don't know. But we'll just have to wait and see. You can expect me to be reviewing that, for sure. Never did get around to making that birdie video, but you know what they say, gotta break a few ovaries to make an omelette. Later!